Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya Master Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And Anne-Marie, of course, I always introduce you in the intro as being a Taya Master because you and I have been through the Taya Boot Camp together. Yes. And one of the main things we learn in Taya Boot Camp is how to stay up the spiral and not go down the spiral. UTS versus DTS, right? That's a big part of it. Well, we're going to get to talk more about that today because we have an expert joining us about all the ways that you want to stay out of going down that spiral. That's pretty cool stuff.
Definitely.
Her name is Ashley Krooks. She is a life and success embodiment coach. And Ashley, first of all, welcome to the program. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
And you got to give us a little bit of background about how did you get to do this? Because I always like to ask that question. It usually means there's some sort of a crash and burn story that led to an enlightenment. I said, oh my God, I got to change it. I got to share it with the world and I got to do all this stuff. And I can tell from the way you're nodding. Yeah, that story exists. So tell us the story.
It's like right on the money. Yeah. So for me, I started my original business back in 2017. And at that time, what I really wanted to do was travel the world and work from anywhere. And that was my dream. And, I'd always been a high achiever. So I was always working really hard. And, I knew if I set my mind to something that I would do it because I would just do whatever it took to get that to be my reality. And so within a year, my now husband, boyfriend at the time, he was able to, he quit his job. We put all of our stuff in storage. We were making way more than what we had been making combined in corporate. And so we were like, let's go. And we left to go travel the world. And we've actually been traveling the world. We just slowed up as we now have a baby on the way. But
oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. But for the last 8 years, we've been traveling all over the world, gone to over 60 countries together while building our business. But what ended up happening to me pretty quickly was we're leaving to travel and I have everything I ever wanted. I had, the lifestyle freedom, location freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, like all of it. I had what I thought success would bring me, except I thought it would bring me happiness. I thought it would bring me like all these, everything we're promised when we hit success. I was like, wait, but I don't feel this way at all. If anything, it was just more confronting to me because now there was no telling myself, oh, but when I hit this goal that I'll feel this way, or when I'm traveling, I'll feel this way. It was like, well, you're doing it now and you don't feel that way. And so for me, it was this constant, I couldn't let in the life that I created. Like I felt like I was a prisoner of my own mind and we'd be traveling, we'd be in these amazing locations, like the cobblestone streets of Europe. We went to the pyramids of Egypt, like all these places. And I would be physically there, but mentally my mind was a million miles away and, going over like, what could go wrong? What does this person think? When's the other shoe going to drop? Strategizing my next business move, like nonstop, all of these things. And so basically I was going like this for quite a bit of time. And I realized like, okay, at first I was blaming external things. I was like, maybe it's my business. Maybe that's what it is. And that needs to change naturally. But I ultimately realized I was like, well, my business actually gives me a lot of freedom. There's a lot of automation in it. I have a team helping me. Other people in my business don't seem to be feeling this way. So ultimately I realized like, no, it must be me. And so I was talking to this friend a few months into my travel journey and she was like, what got you here won't get you there. And I realized like, from that, all the hustle, the grind, the being in my head, the just like draining myself so much to hit these goals and this constant hamster wheel in my mind of like thoughts was what needed to change in order for me to actually get to my next level and actually enjoy the life that I was creating. Otherwise I was just going to burn out. And I just really couldn't do it this way anymore. And so that was back in 2018. And that sent me on this like deep spiritual personal development journey to create a life that feels as good as it looks. And I pretty much been on that journey ever since. And it really, as I was like learning all these different modalities and, investing in all these different things and noticing shifts in myself, I became so passionate about it. When you talk about how you have to like scream it to the world, I was like noticing these shifts in me and realizing what was actually possible. Like this whole version that I thought that I was, I realized, oh, this isn't actually me. These are just survival patterns or how I was conditioned or what I was told that I, who I was told I was. But like I can change, like this isn't me. I can actually be this person that I know is inside there. And I was unraveling all of these things that were blocking me from actually accessing this freedom in myself. And as I got closer and closer to it, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get certified in these things. I need to learn how to help other people with them. And it just spiraled from there. And so, yeah, it's something I'm really, really passionate about supporting others with as well. Just being able to really turn off their minds and actually like let in their success and let in their lives, like soak up the moments that matter, because that's really what it's all about.
Isn't it a shock the first time that you discover that all those things you thought were going to make you happy don't make you happy? I mean, seriously, that the first time it happens, you say, well, that can't be.
No one talks about this.
No.
Yeah, seriously.
So first you're dealing with the shock, and then you're dealing with, well, now what do I do?
Totally.
They didn't map that part out for me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What else? Will this other thing make me happy, maybe? Or this other thing? It's like,
you kind of get to the stage where you just can't hide anymore and you've got to face it. But it's a tough one to take.
Yeah, definitely. Very hard pill to swallow, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice also that as you started to discover what the true root of your own happiness was and do all that work that you were describing and so forth, did you also find that the other work, the regular business and so forth, got easier? Because that's a pattern that plays out a lot.
Yeah, I would say it definitely got easier. I think for me also, certain things got less meaningful. Like I think that I realized like, oh, the just like seeking the next financial thing, or like seeking like certain more external freedoms or whatnot. Those were more, for lack of a better word, it felt a little superficial like at the time, because I was like, well, it doesn't matter unless you have this foundation. So it became too, like, I think for me, there was a whole period of like really needing to work through that and being like, oh, no, like I could still want this success. I could still want the money, those benefits that come with it too. But knowing that like this was the key piece. But I would say, yeah, as I started finding more of that happiness and that like just life force in myself, life and things definitely got easier as well. And yeah, I feel like I had a lot less like confrontations with things and whatnot.
And I'm also curious to know, you heard us use the terms UTS and DTS, up the spiral, down the spiral. How far DTS did you go?
I would say, I guess I don't know like your metrics and how far down you'd say.
It's your metric. It's not ours. I mean, you're the one who's doing your own measuring. So,
but I think for me, I mean, it would definitely take me for rides. Like I would, really, really stress out about different things. And for like a long period of time, like I was, going to bed stressed in these thoughts, waking up in these thoughts, like it was really nonstop. And to the point where I eventually actually did burn out in my business. And because it was so all consuming for me, and really like mapping out all these scenarios that could happen that like, never ended up happening, most of them, but it was just like, that's where my mind would always go. And so I would say I went pretty far down the spiral before I actually really, maybe I'd climb up for a little bit, but then I'd go back down. And before I was able to actually get to kind of an equilibrium where it was more like I could stay around there or get myself up. Yeah, it would definitely take me down for a while.
Yeah. And then you found a way up and you did it. It sounds like through discovering your own internal happiness. I also know, both of us know, that that's never a direct path. It's always a winding, curvy thing that goes in 50,000 directions before you finally end up in your spot and you say, how the hell did I get here? But in the midst of all that, you were learning stuff, and you were learning stuff about not only how to go down the spiral, but how to go up the spiral. So let's talk about that for a little bit. What did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, I learned so many things. Like it's been such a journey. I feel like I started just learning so much about so many different modalities and just digging in. I really, for me, what really were the big shifts was, I started doing a lot of mindset work initially, but I realized, oh, well, I'm just applying my same high achiever habits to the mindset work. And it was, shifting me to a point, but I was still having all these thoughts. Maybe they were getting a bit nicer, better, but they were still, but I was still not feeling good, still having all these thoughts. And then ultimately, after doing that for like a while, for over a year, I started finding more modalities that really worked at the root with my nervous system and, digging deep into subconscious reprogramming, somatics, energetic therapies, like nervous system regulation, and like so many. Probably if you name any modality, I probably tried it at some point.
Okay.
But really realize that is like the key, is really getting to that nervous system, because it's like if we're always in survival, no matter what, we're always gonna, go down the spiral, and that's where our body feels safe. And and where our system feels safe. So really like recognizing that and then figuring out those shifts along the way as well. And I think also like one really big thing that I learned is this isn't like, I mean, I feel like I've been able to compartmentalize it for people now a lot because I've gone through so much, but it wasn't not a quick journey for me at all. And, you know, I think sometimes we really want those quick fixes or we want to change. And for me, it was really like, there were a lot of times along from, you know, from 2018 till like a few, like, you know, I would say even parts of early last year or different times where I was like, you know, will I ever actually find like the inner peace that I'm searching for? And I really didn't actually know if it was possible for my mind to actually should calm down in the way that I was hoping that it would. And so I think like that was a big piece too of just learning to really just not settle for that and keep showing up and keep doing that. And I think a big piece that I learned too, is originally I thought that that was just who I was. Like I just thought that was me and that I couldn't change, and really recognizing like, oh, that's just a part of me. And, oh, you know, I actually can change and that's not who I am. Like that was a really big shift for me to just really just give me the freedom from all the ways I'd been really hard on myself, judged myself a lot, and like saw myself in not the most positive ways. And that was a really big shift to like help me start to just unravel from that and start to really do the deeper work to actually like figure out why I was like that, or what, you know, what that actually was coming from versus like that's actually me. And those were big pieces too. And I don't know if you were looking for like what I learned in like specific things, but I definitely have a lot I could share on that front too. But
we'll do it all one step at a time. And that actually leads to my next comment, which is you're reminding me with the way you described that, especially the early part, you're reminding me of a comment that was once made by Will Smith, the actor. He once said that it took him something like 12 to 14 years to become an overnight success. And that's really what we're talking about there. We don't necessarily see all those things that go on. We see the result at the end. We say, whoa, how did that person do that? That's amazing. Well, they did it by going through all the craziness. And the reason I latched onto that is you talked about how you kept getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. One of the things that I love about that is I think getting better is definitely the way to go. But the other thing is when you're getting better a little at a time, it doesn't feel like you're making any progress. And so half the time, right, Anne-Marie? Am I wrong? I mean,
no, you're not wrong, and that's so true, because everybody wants that big quick fix, don't they? Yeah. So even those little changes, they just sometimes just bypass you, and you're just like, that was a good day, but tomorrow's going to be worse, because you've still got that voice in your head and you've not dealt with that yet.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back, 4 steps forward. That's just the nature of it, you know. And we don't want it to be that way. We want it to be really smooth, right? Just a gentle glide upward, and it never is. Never ever.
Can't we just be healed like just naturally?
It's so simple that way, right?
For real. Yeah.
The thing that always amazes me about that, though, is that not only is it not smooth, but when we look back on it, especially from years, you know, ahead of it, when we finally look back and see the whole picture, from that perspective, it seems smooth. During it, there was absolutely nothing smooth about it at all. But afterwards, like, well, that was pretty easy.
Not sure I feel like that.
No, okay, well,
yeah,
maybe it hasn't been enough years. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think bumpy, but worth it.
Yeah, that's fair. Very bumpy, and I think too, it's like sometimes I notice in my own journey, it's like we're doing these little things and we're noticing these little shifts, but one, it's really hard to actually notice them because you're so caught up in it. And you're like, why am I still dealing with this? Like, why am I still cycling through this same thing that I was doing like years ago? Or why, like, when is this going to shift? And I like to think too, like 2 things on this. It's like, first, what I tell myself is when things are getting really intense around whatever area it is or whatever, like, whatever lesson it is for me to learn, it's just like, oh, that's because it's actually ready to be learned. Like, that's why you're having this whole like stirring come up, and it's really circulating in your world, and it's becoming so like bubbling up so much, is because it's ready to be healed. So I try to look at it that way. And then also it's like, I feel like we do all these things that we don't even know if they're really making a difference. Like, like you were saying, it's like, is this really working? Am I actually changing? Is this shifting? Like, this is still hard. Why is this still so hard? And then all of a sudden you do like one experience, whether it's like, I don't know, like for me, it's even been like one intensive that I'll go to, or like one healing session, or one like retreat I go to in Costa Rica, or whatever it is. But it's like all of the work that I had been doing for the last like year or whatever it is, it's just like all of a sudden it clicks. It's like, whoa, okay. And then I'm like, oh, that's like a big jump, and I can feel it, you know? And it's even some of my like mentors that I work with, they're like, remember, Ashley, like it wasn't that one experience. It was everything that you've been doing that you didn't even know was making a difference. Like, compounds so much over time. And then you like ascend to that next level.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it. We are often our own worst critics. And as a result, we tend to beat ourselves up as we're going along. At the same time, we have those occasions, you know, just those occasions where we stop beating ourselves up. And then all of a sudden we grow.
It's like, oh, is this what I had to do the whole time?
Yeah. Wait a minute, it can't be that easy. Hold on.
But when we get there, it's all so clear as a picture. But when you're going through it, it's like, why?
Yeah.
Why am I going through this?
Oh, yeah.
And then when we get back into another turbulent situation, we're like, why? Rather than go, I'm going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. I know how to handle this better now, but
I'm going to come out stronger. That's
I'm
what I have
better. I'm going to be better. Somehow I'm going to be better. That's often the way it is. But, you know, we do get there.
Yeah, eventually, right? Yeah.
Well, since you did point out that you didn't really drill down on particular tools and tips and so forth, let's pick out a couple of things that you found to be really effective, you know, modalities or processes that made the difference for you. What ones really did it?
Yeah. So I think for me, really what it's been over the years is it isn't even just like one modality. Like, I think oftentimes, you know, people will preach like, oh, it's this modality that makes such a big difference. But there's obviously like a million different modalities out there. And I think ultimately everyone has their place. And it just depends really like where your nervous system is at, like how activated you are by something, what your past is like around a certain issue, like how much in that thought spiral or downward spiral are you, or how much time do you have to actually work on whatever is taking, you know, derailing you at the moment. And like, there's so many nuances to it that I really feel like for me, it's like this combination of modalities that's when things started to really shift for me, of like meeting me where I was at. And so some really powerful ones have been like different subconscious reprogramming techniques have been really powerful for me, like parts work and RRT have been really big. And also somatics has been a big one, but like really getting in like to like deep into the body and combining that with parts work has been huge shifts. And then again, just really when it comes to like nervous system regulation of just even like whenever noticing like when I'm just really. And I mean, there's so many things we could go into for nervous system regulation. So I'm going to try to like summarize it. But I think actually what we were saying like earlier, even is such a big piece, is like this is how am I relating to myself? Because it's like, no matter what, if I'm doing any modality, but I'm actually like beating myself up and I'm resisting my mind, then it's not actually going to be as effective as if I'm actually understanding, oh, my body is just doing this to protect me, or, oh, it's serving me some way, and really having that kindness and acceptance to then alchemize. And I feel like from there, everything can alchemize. And that really is like such a big foundation of the work. But also like energetic therapies have been really big for me as well, combining those. So yeah, those have been like really big like modalities that have worked for me. I would say just depending again, like how much time I had, where I was at, things like that. Well.
And I don't know about you, Emery. Some of the ones you mentioned, I'm not familiar with those labels. So let's just touch on them a bit. Like you mentioned parts, you mentioned somatic. I'm obviously it's body related in some way, but I'm not quite sure what that is. So, you know, fill us in on that.
Is it the sound one?
Oh, no. So, somatics is just really like the body. And so, so I do like trauma informed somatic work, and it's combined with like our body is a lot of our subconscious as well. And so when we can just really drop into the body through one way that we can really get into the body is like through a body scan. And so, we talked about like I have offer a free guided body scan that we can utilize, but so much of my life I was living in my head. And so just realizing like even opening up the channel to my body has been so powerful. And the body holds so much wisdom, and we really like hold, even if we think we've worked through something, it's like, if you're doing, let's say, coming on this show and you're all calm and you're telling yourself, you're like, I got this, I can do this, I'm ready. Like, you've worked through your nerves, but then your heart starts beating really fast and you start sweating and you're like, okay, I'm still nervous. So something's happening. It's like we hold all of our beliefs and everything within the body. So really working deep within the body, and then through getting to the, into the body, feeling the sensations, working with them, we can then utilize parts work, which can also be known as like IFS, internal family systems. And so through there, we have so many like different parts of our psyche that got caught up and kind of exiled in us, in our subconscious, through different experiences in life when they didn't get their needs met. And so really oftentimes a lot of us are always operating from our parts. And so if we can start to really work with these parts and see what these parts need and meet them in a way that can really, like, they didn't get met, oftentimes these parts get stuck because they weren't actually given the attunement and the love and the care that they needed. If we can really figure out what they need and meet them in that, to allow them to feel safe enough to, these parts of our subconscious, to actually can alchemize and heal and like grow up basically, and then we can heal from those parts. And I've noticed like tremendous shifts within myself and my clients, and we can get such good insights on like how we actually, like why we actually are the way we are and why we're operating through utilizing parts work and somatics as well.
So like walk us through that. Like if you're working with a client on parts, I mean, what do you do? Give us a step by step.
Yeah. So I would first really drop the client into their body so that they're not in their mind anymore trying to figure it out. And then from there, we would just start working with the part. So if they came in with an issue, let's say that they were going through in their life, right? And typically anything that's actually happening currently, it's not, and if we're like triggered by it, it's not actually because of what's happening currently, right? It's because of something we're a match to, because of something that happened younger in our lives, or somehow it's reminding us subconsciously of something in the past. And so we can go into the part, then we can start working with the parts. And so I'll start asking the part like, can we make sure the client can access that part?
So let's do a concrete example. Let's make up an issue that the client has, and then go into what the actual part is.
Okay. So it's hard because there's not like a specific, it really does vary, but let's say the client is getting, when they see, like whenever they're leading a call, they're getting really triggered by a specific person that's on the call, but they're not really sure why they're getting triggered by that right person. So then what we would do is we would say, okay, so let's bring in this trigger. So we'd get them into their body. Then we'd bring in that trigger of like, okay, imagine you're on the call. Imagine that you're right and you're starting to feel this way. Feel this in your body. And we'll work through the bodily sensations that they're feeling. And then from there, we'll get to the part and we'll start to say, okay, so now like, can you sense this part of you that starts to get really triggered by this person? Okay, yes. How old does this part of you feel? Okay, what does this part of you need? And just start having a dialogue with the part. And then even like, where did this stem from? And oh, wow, I'm realizing that when I was 4, I had this interaction with my dad, and it started, and this person is actually reminding me of my dad, and this is what happened with my dad. And then we can work with this 4-year-old part of them and have this dialogue and really meet the part and send love to the part, have like, we go in present as well and like hug the part and work with it and whatever comes up to really, again, let that part know that it's okay, that it doesn't have to grasp on. It doesn't have to, that this person is not your dad, that you don't have to be triggered by it, and work with it in different ways to then alchemize it. And oftentimes when we do that, and then we can alchemize a lot. So then you're not actually triggered moving forward by that person. And then too, if it happens, we know, and we can actually go into our subconscious. We can say, okay, what do you need right now? Like, okay, I'm feeling this trigger. So like, what does my part actually need right now? Are you okay? Like, I got you. And we can actually talk to these parts of us, and it can be very healing and very supportive. And even just to recognize, again, like I kind of mentioned, how it's not all of us. Like I realized this wasn't all of me. This was just a part of me. It's the same thing. It's like if we're, maybe there's a part of us that gets really aggressive. We don't really like that, but we're like judging our whole self, our whole identity as, oh, we're so aggressive. We can even use that to just be like, oh, there's a part of me that gets really aggressive when these types of things happen. And we can specifically work with those parts in sessions. But just like for anyone listening, it's like, oh, recognizing, oh, this is just a part of me. So, okay, if I can get in tune with what does this part of me need? Oh, well, this part of me is telling me it wants connection. It wants love. So if I can just give that part the love that it needs, and also recognize this is not all of me, then maybe I was judging myself and really beating myself up for being this aggressive person. But I don't have to do that now, because I know, oh, this is just a part of me, and this part of me really just wants love. So I can give this part love, and I can recognize that it's actually not who I am. And that can be so liberating as well.
So the part isn't so much like a stomach or a liver or something like that. It's an aspect of our personality, an aspect of our personhood.
Yeah, of our subconscious. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Then where's the tie into the body on that? Because you made a very specific reference to that. I wonder how that's tying into the segment of personality.
Yeah. So oftentimes these parts of our subconscious will hang out in different areas of our body. So we'll notice, like, maybe let's say going back to that trigger that happens on a call, maybe it's like always happens in your heart, like it really tenses up. And so we'll go into the body again, because we want to get out of the mind so we can get deeper into the subconscious and really work with the part. We don't always have to go do this, like if you're going throughout your day, but typically it can be really supportive. And then you'll feel like the area of your heart that's doing that, and you'll start to move the sensation, the stuck energy in there. And then from there, you can actually, like, you can feel where the part is in your body. And so maybe it is in your heart. And then you can work with it there. And then that way, when you're getting in touch with the part throughout your day, you can focus on that area of the body. But they oftentimes will, people will find them in different areas of the body through different sensations as well.
Does that sound familiar, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I have heard of that, and it's I know when I feel in a really an emotional, a trigger or something, I always kind of go, okay, stop, and where is that, and what is that, and what's that about, how does that feel? So I can kind of understand that, but also everybody thinks it's all in the head. Mm-hmm. And if they fix their head, it's okay, but actually it makes sense that it's trapped in other parts of your body, because there's energy and it's going to flow around your body, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And like your head, you get blocks, you're going to get blocks elsewhere. So it does make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because if it resonates, that means it's going to not only make sense, it's also going to be something that you feel like you can tie into. So in other words, it becomes a process you feel like you can apply. Now, obviously, Ashley is doing it in sort of a coaching context. She's helping people work through it, but it can work either way. I mean, I presume, Ashley, you can do it with somebody else, but you can also do it within yourself.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you can totally do it within yourself. And I think, it can be such a great tool. And even just dropping yourself, like taking a few breaths, just slowing down, and then, asking that part, right, what does it need? And just can be really supportive, and getting in touch with the sensations you feel in your body. And then, you can go deep with, however many questions you want to ask or see what's coming up. You can definitely do it with yourself. And I think the piece of the mind is so big too. Like, I think, a lot of people think everything's up here, but really so much of our subconscious and what we hold is actually in our bodies. And we're not taught in our cultures, like, to go to the body. And so we can try to fix everything from our head, but we're just operating. But there's so much that we're missing as well when we're not getting deeper into the body, or we get caught. Our minds love the drama, the story, like everything in there. And it's like, well, if we can actually just drop in and say, like, we're getting caught, and it's like, oh, well, but how's my body feeling right now? And we just go straight into that sensation of like, oh, wow, like my heart's beating really fast, or like I'm getting really like tense. It's like, let's just feel that. And we can actually move through whatever's happening so much faster than catching on to the story, which again is just what's happening now, but isn't actually what the deeper root issue is. So we can work with the root, and then from there move forward.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, this sounds like something that you could also do with pain in your body, because sometimes pain does, if I haven't broken my arm and my arm's home, what is that about then? If I haven't damaged it, why is it hurting? And is that something similar? It could be your body's reaction to trauma.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's been a lot of different examples like through somatics and kind of how I explained like going into the body,
Mm.
finding the sensations and utilizing parts work and different things, speaking with the subconscious, that a lot of different external physical ailments like have been healed through that, because we hold so much in our body, so much tension, and then a lot of the pain that manifests externally is actually internal stress, right, built up for so long. And when we can start to actually work with that, yeah, we can release a lot of pain as well, for sure.
This is clearly something that you're passionate about and that you found has made a
Yeah.
big impact on your life. I mean, obviously, this is one of the ones you picked out when I asked you for, specifics. So this is a big one for you. Do you remember when you first encountered it? I imagine it helped you in some major way. Do you remember that story?
Yeah. So for me, I had spent kind of how I've shared like my whole life in my head. I didn't know, like, if you asked me how I felt, it was like, I don't know. I think I feel like this. Like everything was up here. I had barely any connection to my body. Didn't even think about sensations or like anything like that. And yeah, back in 2020 was like the first time that I came across it, really. And for me, I ended up working with this coach, and she led me through on our first session. She really led me through a body scan, but like an extended one. And for me, it was the most, like at that time, it was the most relaxed that I had ever been. Like I had never actually been able to get my mind out of things. And it was just like, whoa, like, okay, this is possible for me, like feeling this way, like not having these constant thoughts, just being here and grounded and present, like that's actually accessible. And so it was a really big shift for me. And then even just like through other sessions that I did, like recognizing like, oh, we don't actually have to, like, it's not just I'm telling you about what's happening in my life and we're just going back and forth and like I'm harping on the story and getting more stressed out about it or whatever it is. It's like, oh no, like, wow, we're actually just, I'm telling you something that's happening. And then instead of like validating that necessarily or like really, playing into the story, we're just actually going into the body and dropping into these parts. And it's like, wow, like from there, I was able to shift so much more in my life, like at the root. And then it was really cool because we would do these things in sessions, and then I would go and then I would see in my life, like things started to shift. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like I do the internal work and things shift externally. And so those were like really powerful moments as I started to do this deeper work.
The whole idea of this body scan, it sounds like it's taking what you were talking about earlier regarding, diving into a part of yourself and unraveling whatever's going on there. The body scan sounds like it's sort of like a general, like an MRI or something, just kind of looking through the body for stuff. Describe that. What's that like?
Yeah, I love that explanation. So the body scan, there's different ways that you can do it, but basically it's just starting to really form this relationship with your body and starting to get familiar with the sensations in your body. So the way that I'll do it is like I'll guide people through, and you can do this on your own too, but like I find guided to be really helpful. But feeling like, okay, starting closing your eyes, right? Taking breaths, dropping into your body, becoming present, and then starting to focus on your feet and noticing like as your feet move and, putting some attention there, and then moving up to your ankles and slowly moving up throughout your whole body and starting to build a relationship with all these different parts of your body. And then noticing as you do the sensations that are coming up. So, oh, is there like a lot of tension around my heart? Like, where is this? And that helps, because then you can start to, think, okay, well, why is this tense, or what's happening here? And you can start then to track throughout your day. Like if, as you get more familiar, if you're feeling that tension, it's like, oh, okay, this is a place that typically gets tense. So what am I holding here? And it can really be supportive to help people start connecting with the body. And then also if you're someone who, like I was, really caught in your head, it can be a really good way to, again, just orient the energy down and be like, oh yeah, we have this whole thing. And it can really help to quiet the mind, and give, again, like the focus somewhere else, and start opening the pathways within the body. And again, getting familiar with those sensations. So body scans are so great for so many reasons, but I would really say, especially for anyone who's like caught in their head or stressed over a situation or kind of looping on something, it can be really, really powerful to just get your mind to calm down.
Yeah, I think we can see that. It also strikes me that the great advantage to the body scan, besides the calming effect, as if that weren't good enough, we need to have more than that. But the other great benefit to it is that you're basically asking your body to give you signals that you're promising you're going to pay attention to this time. You've been ignoring them, perhaps. Now you're actually going to notice them. So it's like body, like, ankle, you're on stage now. Go ahead. I know I've been ignoring you for weeks at a time, but now is your time.
Yes. No, that's such a great point too, because we ignore so many of our body's signals so much, right? And oftentimes they start off like quiet and then they get louder and louder. And then sometimes it can be pretty detrimental, but it's like, if we can really start to form this relationship where we can start to see like, okay, show me like what's actually happening here, and then tend to it as it comes up, or even make the space for it. It can be so healing. So those noises or those sensations don't have to get louder, because we're actually meeting them and creating the space, for them to have the stage, and for them to, we're actually starting to listen to the signals, which I mean, is so huge as well, and can impact our life in so many ways.
And I can see how working with a coach is going to help on that. Because like I can kind of envision myself, like I've had a number of physical things that I've been dealing with through physical therapy and made some really good progress on. But one of them was an Achilles issue. And while I have largely resolved that one, I'll still be at times, even if I'm going to bed or whatever, I'll just sit, or I'm lying down, and I'll feel the soreness in the Achilles. And I can just see myself saying, okay, they're sore. What's the message? Well, they're sore. I don't know what else to do with it. That's where I think the coach is actually helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think like there's certain things that you could maybe look at of just like in terms of the soreness. It's like, okay, so maybe I need to stretch, maybe I need to see this, like you can see in that. But ultimately, I think it definitely is helpful. And then you can start to learn your body more, like, okay, there's this tension in my heart. So okay, how do I actually, instead of just consistently operating from that tension in my heart, what are practices? Again, where a coach would come in, or once you learn the practices, what are practices that I can do to work through this tension, right? To start moving this tension, so I can start opening my heart and no longer having it be like tense like that. And then, a coach is really supportive, even just for like the co-regulation as well, can be really powerful, because sometimes I know for me as well, when I was doing like initial body scans just myself, because I was so dysregulated, unless I had someone co-regulating with me and helping me like ground in, I would still stay really up here, even as I was doing the body scan. So it can be really supportive for a co-regulation. And then again, to understand like, okay, let me go into this sensation and see like this soreness or whatever it is, like, what is this actually telling me? And where did this stem from, and how can I work through it from there?
It's fascinating to me, because another aspect of what I've encountered with my Achilles, with both of the Achilles, is every once in a while, I will get that soreness, and I'll go through pretty much what I just said. Like, okay, it's sore. Now what? I have no idea what. And then I'll do something. I don't necessarily know exactly what, but I'll do something to shift my mindset. And all of a sudden the soreness is gone. I said, well, where did the soreness go? And half the time it feels like, well, okay, I did it, but I have no idea what I did.
It's so true. Well, also like what we focus on expands, right? So sometimes if we're focusing on the pain and we're really like, zoning in on it, then sometimes the pain will get worse. But if we just, we're like, okay, we're okay, and we do whatever it is to not be focused on it, sometimes, it just gets less. But I'd be curious what it is that you're doing specifically. But
the only thing I can tell you, I have narrowed this part down. If I can do something that shifts my attention to something that I feel a lot better about, that's when the pain goes away. So I have that much of a clue, but beyond that, I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
Well, that actually makes a lot of sense, I would say, because you're shifting your whole body state, right? So it's like if you're focused on kind of the negative, or you're getting like that tension in your body or the stress or whatever it is, then naturally pain is more so going to arise. But if you're opening your heart up, if you're focused on like the good and what's coming, that shifts your whole internal state, which actually is a big shift. Like I've seen some people do some pretty crazy things with pain based on how they shift what they're like, where their attention is and how they're relating to the pain. And so I feel like you're doing, as you bring in that like positive experience, it's like it affects everything in our body, and that part that is creating the pain too, like the tension in your body is also probably able to relax a bit, which takes the pain away.
I remember the first few times I noticed, and this was consciously noticed, I was deliberately trying to do this kind of thing because of the basic theory we often talk about here, the law of attraction theories. The idea that if you give your attention to what you want instead of what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you want, that sort of thing. And the first time I was able to do that with a physical bodily situation, it took a tremendous amount of effort to do it the first time. But when I finally pulled it off, I was absolutely flabbergasted. Like, oh my God, it worked. How did I do that?
Like, I'm powerful. Like, what?
Holy crap. Why can't I do that every time? I don't understand it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like with anything else, the more that you practice, the better you get at it. But even now, I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I can do that fairly consistently, but half the time I don't even know what I'm doing. The only thing I know is like one of my favorite techniques. Like if, for the longest time, it was my right Achilles that was the issue. As long as it was just the right Achilles that was experiencing pain and the left Achilles felt good, I would take advantage of the bipolarity of the body. I'd focus on the left Achilles and say, this is the way my right Achilles feels right now. And I get excited about that. And after focusing really strongly that way, the pain would go away in the right Achilles. If I had in both Achilles, I was kind of in trouble because I didn't have a bipolarity I could go to. Right?
You're like, well, my left thigh feels good. So
yeah, right.
But is that something similar? Because even though you're not focusing on the limb or whatever where the pain is, you're focusing on the opposite. You're focusing where it feels good. Is that deflection or is that something similar? Because you're just putting good energy in. I don't know. I was just wondering.
I don't know either. Yeah. I don't have a good answer. Like I said, I have not completely figured all this stuff out. The closest I've come to figuring it out is that if I raise my vibration, good things happen. Beyond that, I don't have any clue. I can't tell you.
We all have our toolbox, don't we, Walt?
Yeah, right.
That's all you need, right?
By what you're talking about, Ashley, because it sounds like you found a way to kind of zero in and get more information, really. Which is not because you're also doing it outside your head. That's the really cool part about it.
Yeah. We have access. I think we have access to so much more information than we realize, and then we're told, right? But we just have to be willing to really kind of get out of our heads to actually be able to access it. But yeah, there's so much knowledge in the body and
does the body, are there like clues you look for that tell you, okay, here's how I understand what the body's telling me now because it's doing A, B, and C?
It's more like I can do that. So it's more like, let's say I catch myself like really in a trigger or something, then I'll like drop into my body, and then it's just like, okay, what is this telling me here? Like, okay, well, my heart's beating really fast, or like I'm getting really tense. So, okay, let me, instead of going up and trying to work through the trigger, let me actually relax my body. So maybe I'll do breaths, maybe I'll go into the sensation, maybe I'll move it, like different ways that I'll get into the body. And then, or if I'm feeling totally fine, but my body, for some reason, my heart is like really tense, I'll be like, okay, what is this telling me right now? And I'll see, and I'll actually listen to see if something comes through. So maybe I'll drop into my body, maybe I'll do a body scan, or I'll get into my body and, see what the body tells me. From there, and then like use whatever tools I have to like work through the heart. And then obviously deeper like subconscious practices, like I've shared with the parts work and stuff, to see what my body will tell me. I think too, a lot of our intuition can come from our body. And so especially with so many voices in our head and it's like dropping into the body, a lot of times I'll use that to really, just like I'll ask different questions, and I'll see, like for me, I have a specific way that my body will respond if it's like a yes answer and I should do something or not, and really use that to get information from my body as well.
So do you actually experience it as messaging?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I would say like, I think if I'm using it to ask like a yes or no question, I can definitely experience it as messaging for sure. And then I would say in the sense of going into the body and then working with the parts and having them like hearing them through the body can definitely get a lot from that. And I think also to our body language can be really powerful. Like, I do different practices with my clients where they really drop into their body, and then we act out and do some character play like with these different parts, and through our body language that's literally how we're expressing some of these parts at times. And so we can then get into our subconscious, and when we express from that way, we can really see what's actually going on inside of us too.
Yeah, now I'm trying to imagine what that dialogue is like, right? So you're creating play, right, between, your Achilles and your right knee, and like, the Achilles is saying one thing and the knee's saying the other, and like, no, 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 you're wrong here. Hold on a sec. I'm imagining something like that.
It's more kind of like going into like what the parts actually actualize as versus like the body parts, but in like the subconscious parts versus the body parts. But I would say in terms of the body parts, like in terms of getting specific messages from those, I would say there's ways that you can, just really go into the body somatically and then work with it, so like through the subconscious, and get deep into the part and actually, see like what is happening there. And maybe what is it? Maybe like your shoulder has been really tight. You're trying to figure out why. And maybe you find out that there's actually a part of you that's like really gripping onto something from when you were younger, or like it's gripping onto something for survival or whatever it might be. It could be a slew of different things, but it's like then we can work with that part, and then you actually notice, oh wow, my shoulder isn't in as much pain. And so you can see like the subconscious reasons behind it, because often there is a deeper reason behind the pain or whatever it is that we're experiencing as well.
See, I'm trying to picture that a bit like journaling. Sometimes if I have a question, I'll just write it down and I'll ask all these questions and then just kind of channel the answers. But that almost feels like it's external, whereas yours is more internal. But I wonder if the answers would be different.
I think it just depends on like where you get your guidance from. That would shift it and to see. But ultimately, I guess you would trust that if it's the answer that you're meant to get, right, that no matter where you ask it, that it's going to give you the same. Same.
That's a key piece of this, isn't it? Because just speaking for myself, I know that a large portion of my own limitations that I put on my growth have to do with just not trusting what I'm getting from within. And over time, I have learned to trust more and more what comes from within. And yet it's still amazing to me how often I'll get something and I'll say, no, it can't be that.
Yes, I get that for sure. I think that can be one of like the trickiest things, right? Like my whole life, I was always told the answer was outside myself, whether it was a textbook or a teacher or whatever. So when it's like, wait, there's no right answer. Like I know the answer. It's like, what does that even mean? And I think that's why for me, actually, the body has been such a great tool because, well, one of the reasons, because my mind, I can doubt myself so much, but if like my body is telling me there's less, like I can know that, versus like all the different voices in my head or where I can like more so feel it, which for me personally, people will experience it differently, but can be a really powerful way to know. And then I may also check it because I'll doubt it. I may also check it with like doing, some type of journaling and seeing like what comes through in there. That can be supportive for me as well, but definitely get that.
And another piece that I like to this whole approach is that because you're treating the body as kind of a repository, if you will, for these different things that have remained unaddressed and need addressing, it ties in really nicely with theories about the subconscious or unconscious brain, unconscious mind, that are based on the idea of repetition of old experiences being played out over and over again. It ties in really nicely with that, because if you're going to have stuff like that, it kind of makes sense that we would associate that for whatever reason. For the reason is going to be different in every case, but we would associate it with a part either of our personality or of a physical body part, one way or another. That fits the whole theory that's generally put out now about how the subconscious mind works.
Yeah, exactly. It's replaying, right? In even if we're not consciously aware of it, right, in our subconscious mind or in our body as well, based on the just sensations that we're feeling or the ways we react to something. If it happens, we're like, wait, why am I reacting this way? Like it doesn't make sense with what's happening currently. But it's this constant, right? It's stuck in there and it constantly replays out in so many different scenarios of our lives.
I often like to say that it's great to have a skill. Sometimes I wonder, though, is that really a skill we want, that we just keep burying stuff like that in our subconscious minds?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Well, that's why we have to get into our subconscious mind and into the body, right, to start to shift it, because otherwise, we don't even know what gets stored there, right? And what actually, it's like crazy to me thinking like you know, sometimes consciously you think these are like small micro experiences that, you know, maybe they affect you, but they don't really affect you. But you don't choose like consciously what actually affects you and keeps replaying in your subconscious and then affects all areas of our lives. So it's like sometimes, you know, we don't even know like what is actually running.
I could also say that we do choose it. I mean, you're right. We don't choose it, but if we keep replaying it over and over again, well, in a sense, we are choosing it. Every time that we play it again, yep, I'm going to choose it one more time. Go choose it again. Go choose it again. I mean, so we're doing both.
Although, yeah, I think the conscious pieces that we replay and that we know, like for sure. But I think what we're not even aware of, or maybe memories we don't even remember, like, you know, those were, I don't know that I mean, I guess we chose them at some point, right? I mean, technically we're choosing everything, right, in our lives, but yeah, I think it's just so interesting sometimes. Like, I know for me, when we like, we'll go into these deeper practices, I'll be like, wow, in these deeper practices, like I'll be like, I didn't even know I was holding on to that, or that was an experience that was like really dictating so much of my life now. And then even realizing that can be so freeing. But for sure, I think it can be really hard, I think, to not repeat things when we know, like we're consciously repeating them sometimes, but for sure. But like, then I think, yeah, there is a part of us, right, that's getting served in some way by that. And so we definitely are choosing those ones.
Well, sure. And that's also when we get really good at beating the crap out of ourselves. Oh, I'm doing it again. I can't seem to stop that brain from doing the blah, 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 blah. We're really good at that.
Totally, right? We don't even realize it's such autopilot.
I do wonder if there are people out there who make it their identity, though. So, you know, being in pain is their identity. Oh, well, I'm disabled, or I've got issues with my shoulder, whatever it may be. Some people find that identity. So letting go of that can be really difficult, because you're letting go of who you are, not just a pain in your shoulder.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm wondering.
And Tony Robbins talks about that. Like the biggest thing we'll fight for is our identity, like any human. And so it's like whatever we identify with becomes the hardest to actually let go of. And yeah, I think a lot of people through pain find a lot of purpose isn't the word, but through pain, I mean, that too in other ways, but through pain find a lot of like solace, right? And like really digging in the pain, and it becomes their whole identity. And so, yeah, I think some people, whether consciously or not, like they don't want to let go of it, and they don't know how to, or they're not ready to, because it really has become so much of who they are.
It's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people. I would say probably the vast majority of the population, because we see so much of the craziness going on. I mean, we can point to all of them. We all know what they are. And very often we get wrapped up in these terrible things are happening. And people's lives are being adversely affected, and some people are being marginalized, and all kinds of stuff going on like that. And it's hard to remember we all have a choice, and all of them have a choice. Everybody who's involved in that has a choice about how are they going to stay with it? Are they going to try to grow out of it? Are they going to get help? Are they going to curl up in a ball and suck their thumb? We all have that choice. The choice doesn't actually go away. It seems like it. Especially if we're in a victim mode, then it really seems like it. But the choice never actually goes away.
Totally. Yeah.
And that to me is that's how I stay more optimistic, by remembering that, because it is so easy to get sucked into all the, the great divide and horrible things happening in the news and the political scene and all. I mean, you can get all wrapped up in that, but you can also remember you have a choice about it.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think we have way more choice than we realize. And I think for that type of stuff too, I like to look at like, what is like, if I'm getting really caught in something, it's like, well, why is this the thing that's getting me really, really caught? Like, what's the match point, or what's the trigger, the part I'm not claiming in myself that maybe I need to claim? That's why like this whole situation is really getting to me so much, or, or even like, what are the lessons for me in here? Like, I feel like if we can pull back, and kind of almost zoom out on what's happening in the world and look at it more from like I don't know, even I guess it's kind of like a spiritual scale, or look at it from like just pull back overall, right? And seeing even with like law of attraction, well, what am I actually attracting into my life? Like does this have to affect me as much right now? And really claiming like all of that choice and seeing like, okay, well, I can go all in with this and have it completely take over, or I can back up from it and, realize I don't really have control over it. And then, okay, what can I do? Like what in my environment can I actually control and move from there? As well. It can be really freeing.
That's good. This has been a really good conversation. I love when we do a deep dive like this, and that especially that last half there where we're just really diving into the processes that you guys do. That's really good stuff. We have a few things we like to do before we finish up an episode. Cool. We want to make sure we do those right now. First things first. Someone is listening in and they decide, I got to work with Ashley, or at least I got to talk with her to find out if she's somebody to work with. We should probably tell them how to find you, don't you think?
I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah. So the best way to find me would be on Instagram. And so my Instagram is the places Ash goes. So it's like OH, kind of like Dr. Seuss. The places Ash goes. And so I would love for you to message me and touch base and let me know like even how this conversation landed for you. And I would love to chat to dive deeper as well.
Do you also have online resources?
Yes. So I have multiple different online resources. You can also find them on my Instagram, and I'll also, I don't know if we can link them to the show at all, but I do have a free, like I mentioned, guided body scan. And so I'll provide you with that link as well to, really be able to connect. And for all the reasons that we talked about in the of the benefits of the body scan, so that you can try that out for yourself and really access that inner peace.
If you're up for it, send a link to any of those links that you want to send it to Jen, the VA who sent you all the details about the show, and she'll make sure she works it into the show notes. So we can
amazing. Okay, awesome. Great.
So that's the first thing we like to do. The second thing we like to do is I like to go to Anne-Marie because she has a really great perspective on what's going on in this conversation. Obviously, she participates in it, but she's also a listener. And I mean that literally. She started as a listener who came onto the show.
That's awesome.
And she still retains that. And that's valuable because she's listening kind of from the point of view of the audience. So I'm always looking forward to find out how is she going to tie all this together. So Anne-Marie, how are you tying together what we've been talking about today?
Oh, there's so much, and I could spend another hour just going down a rabbit hole on conversations with the body because I find it quite interesting. But I think for me, I just love the whole journey of self-awareness that it brings. And we're all, like we said earlier, we're all told about like fixing our mental states and our mindsets and basing it all on the mind. And I just love that it's building that physical connection with yourself and your body and understanding, my arm has feelings. And I've actually been doing it. I had my cartilage pierced last week and it's still a bit sore. So I'm like, okay, ear, what's going on? Why are you still sore? So I've been doing that while we were here as well. So I'm intrigued. Yeah, because I've done there's a guided meditation I do in the evenings, and it's about like clearing the day out, and you kind of breathe out of your feet. So you're clearing your body. And sometimes I do feel that block. So now I know to talk to it. So, sometimes I'll get to my shin and I'm like, why is that? It's not clearing down there. So why? So I'm just going to talk to myself. So yeah, I love that whole connection to yourself, your physical body, rather than just your mindset, because both are important.
So true.
Yeah. See, you've had an impact already, Ashley.
Yeah.
Amazing. Real time.
Yeah. And that actually ties into the last thing I like to do with every episode. Because I noticed this a few years ago. Now that we're in the 21st century, we're all interconnected. I mean, you're in New York, I'm in Connecticut, Anne-Marie's in the UK. We've had people connecting from all over the world. It's just amazing how it works today. It didn't exist 30 years ago. Today, it's like everywhere, and we're so used to it. And because of that, people like you, people like us, we're putting out content. We're helping people. We're sharing information and so forth. And we're doing it with people most of the time we don't even know who they are. We don't see how they're using it. We hope they're using it well. Hopefully, they're maybe even improving their own lives and somebody else's lives. You never really know what they're doing. And I noticed that we don't get credit for that. And I said, well, I can do something about that because I'm a host on a podcast and I have guests all the time. And I get this opportunity every single time. So Ashley, on behalf of those people you've never met, never seen, and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that. I love that. What a beautiful shout out.
I think we need to do that more often. So many people have learned the value of being of service to others, and so they just kind of try to do what you're doing, just put the word out there. And yeah, of course you have a career that goes along with it, but you're still trying to get that out there. I love how that has happened. I mean, To me, that's the greatest benefit of the modern technology. People are finding a new way to just share what they know with others.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to recognize that. So that's why I make this a practice.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. We have access to so much information. I think, yeah, we definitely, like you said, we don't realize what it takes for that person to have learned it, to embody it, to share it. And I know for myself on social media, sometimes I don't acknowledge the people who I've learned the most from. And so it really is such a great practice. I love that you do that.
Beautiful. So thank you very much for sharing with us today. Best of luck with what you're doing. Keep doing all the good work. Yeah, we really appreciate you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. This was a fun conversation.
And thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.